Hundreds trooped into Fort Wallace to catch a day in the life of the Army. The aspiring Rambos among them couldn't wait to get their hands on some heavy artillery. Fortunately for them, it wasn't live. Some eager volunteers showed the crowd just what to expect if they took the big step and joined the forces. The trick is to expect the unexpected. Perhaps it gave some people second thoughts. The recruiting booth was anything but crowded, but most missed the most impressive display. Veteran Colonel Dick Mort has a wealth of memories from Army life, including the night the Japanese shelled Newcastle.
I was awakened with the sound of gunfire, and when I came out into the open, there was a star shell had just burst overhead.
And would he recommend a military career?
Definitely. And discipline never hurt anybody, particularly Army discipline. And if I was a young bloke, I'd be in it well and truly.
It was a small but colourful procession that took to the streets of Newcastle today. The earthquake destroyed the traditional May Day banners which had been stored in the Workers' Club, but no one was complaining about their replacements. Many were aimed directly at the Greiner government, whose push for privatisation of public assets inspired the May Day Committee.
Eventuated from a struggle around shorter hours 100 years ago, and it's gone on to not only represent our appreciation of things won in the past, but it also appreciates what our aims for the future, for the trade union movement.
So you think it still remains relevant today?
I think it's more than relevant today, with all the attacks that are on for all the different trade unions.
The procession wound its way from Pacific Park to the Trades Hall, marching to the beat of the Newcastle RSL pipe band. Once there, the workers were treated to a spot of political pantomime, this time aimed at Transport Minister Bruce Baird. Still, it wasn't all political point scoring. The red banners of socialism were this year tinged with green, as May Day marchers showed their concern for our planet. They were small in number, but big in commitment. Most will be back next year.
Waratah hit the score sheet early in the match after a fine backline move saw Newman lob a big pass to his winger Rennie, who did the rest to score in the corner. But the Bay hit back immediately, with 5/8 Wilton making the initial burst, and he found Reid backing up on the outside. Reid did well to get his arms free and got the ball back inside to Wilton, and he galloped away to score under the posts. 3 minutes later, North Nelson Bay were in again. A simple blindside move by hooker Darren Coles, and they led by 8. Waratah made great use of the kick-off, but it was to be their undoing. The Bay won the scrum, and Kelly stepped his way up to the halfway line. Gave it away to Reid, then on to Wilton, and he found the long-striding Pensini backing up, and he beat some ordinary defence to stretch the Bay's lead. Pensini wasn't finished, and 4 minutes later scored a magnificent individual try from his own 22. Pensini ran at the Waratah defence, and they fell off him everywhere, and again Pensini raced to the try line without too many hands touching him. Interested spectators, Night Stars Jeff Doyle and Tony Butterfield took plenty of notice in the points being scored. Waratah were unlucky not to close the gap when captain coach Craig Higgins brilliantly chipped and regathered, gave the pass to Fairhurst, but he dropped the ball over the line. But they did score, and it was Higgins who accepted a pass from Scott Budden, and Higgins reached out for the try. 2 minutes later, the Tars were in again, and a good backline move resulted in a well-earned try to fullback Tony Picken, and there was only 8 points in it at the break. But on the resumption, it was all North Nelson Bay, and they secured the 10-point victory when centre Doug Reid was on the end of some chain passing, and the boys from the Bay had burst the Waratah bubble. For reigning premiers Wallsend, it was to be their day, as before the match, Don Geddes, the president of the Newcastle Australian Football League, unfurled the 1989 premiership pennant won by the Swans, and it was another chance to show off the Black Diamond Cup. But Nelson Bay were hell-bent on spoiling the party for Wallsend, and Troy Luff at centre-half forward was devastating early. But the match was to end in a 5-point win for Wallsend, and controversy, as it was alleged that the Swans scored their final goal after the final siren. Over at Carrington and the Pat Jordan Oval, Stuart Deering, Newcastle's latest Australian hockey representative, was hard at work umpiring. Stuart has been chosen to play for his country overseas in June at 2 tournaments.
I don't expect to get a lot of games because I'll be the number 2, but I'll be there watching and learning and just try and play well when I get onto the field.
For Stuart, it's a dream come true, as his father Paul played for Australia in 3 Olympics, 1964, 68 and 72.
You know, it's something to live up to. My father, you know, playing for Australia, so it's something I always aim for, and I finally got the chance to see how I go.
The Department of Housing has built 12 family townhouses and 28 pensioner units on what was once a large car yard on Maitland Road. A private developer approached the department with the concept and finished the project in just 10 months, 8 weeks ahead of schedule. The complex carries the name Ellardale, which is the historical name of the property which once graced a part of this site. The old sandstone home has been preserved and will now become a community centre, the focal point for group activities within the development.
Hopefully that they will use this facility for those who get Meals on Wheels, that we'll be able to bring the meals to the facility, they can have their meals together, and a whole range of community activities that they like to undertake.
The pensioner units have been refined with major improvements to the bathrooms. Special rails and additional floor space mean the toilet and shower can cater to the needs of pensioners of all ages.
If a tenant moves in and their health deteriorates and they need aids to shower, toilet and so forth, there is space for this to happen. If they need somebody to come and shower them for home care, there's space for that.
For the tenants moving in from today, these new homes mean the end of a 3 to 5 year wait on public housing lists, although the department admits that demand keeps outstripping supply. John Church, NBN News.
News of the crash sent waves of shock and fear throughout the Hunter last night. With both trains having begun their journeys in the region, panic reigned for the family and friends of locals who'd been aboard. Newcastle City Rail General Manager John Zantiotis was told of the disaster just minutes after it happened. Within the hour, he was on the crash site, a scene he would later describe as appalling. He spent more than 12 hours there, helping rescuers and sifting through the carnage in a bid to understand those last terrible moments. One question today was why a steam vintage loco like the 3801 was allowed to hold up a busy line like the Newcastle to Sydney route.
The 3801, was it a liability being on that track?
No, I don't believe so. 3801 has travelled many thousands of miles on the state rail system, and only on Saturday did a similar trip, and everything went okay. Yesterday something went wrong.
Also on the scene from Newcastle last night, 6 ambulances, a full team of paramedics and the Westpac rescue helicopter. It was used to ferry injured to Sydney, Gosford and finally, as the list of casualties grew, to Newcastle. However, after being found to have only severe bruising, the 42-year-old Sydney man was this afternoon discharged. He'd been a spectator at the Knights St George clash at the ISC that afternoon. For Westpac Chief Pilot John Skeens, the sight of the red and white garb of the Dragons supporters amongst the wreckage was particularly eerie. One Newcastle family counting its blessings today are the Hills. Charlestown solicitor Michael Hill had put his 2 teenage sons on the doomed commuter train along with more than 30 schoolmates. The last time he saw them, they were sitting in the front carriage behind the Batteau Bay driver who was killed. After receiving news of the crash, Michael Hill began the mind-numbing search for his boys. First at Gosford, then at Hornsby, finally at Barara.
We got into the club and one of my sons just walked past and said, "G'day Dad, what are you doing here?"
What frame of mind were they in, Michael?
They were quite relaxed then. We've spoken to them today and they got the shivers when they got back to school and realised how lucky they had been.
I believe they were extremely lucky.
Yes, they had been in the front of the train, and because it was a smoking carriage, they got out and went down the back of the train and joined their friends.
Now, were any of their friends hurt at all?
Some very minor injuries.
Novocastrians are in one of Australia's highest risk groups for heart disease.
A higher percentage of the population in Newcastle are smoking, probably tend to be a little more overweight, and issues of diet, higher fat diets.
So Professor Bill Haskell, a heart and exercise specialist, was pleased to spread some potentially life-saving news to Hunter Health professionals.
Heart attacks are still the major cause of death in Australia. In the last 20 years, for men and women in Australia, the heart attack death rates have been reduced in half. So our goal now is to reduce that in half again over the next 20 years.
He and the National Heart Foundation aim to do this by encouraging all of us to lead a healthier lifestyle. But take heart, and that includes all lounge lizards and couch potatoes. Swap a high-fat diet for one high in fruit, vegetables and lean meat, and don't smoke. Then combine that with regular exercise. But it's now believed strenuous fitness regimes like aerobics and jogging are not essential.
Light or moderate activity can provide a lot of benefit relative to preventing a heart attack.
Swimming, cycling and golf can be just as beneficial, and regular brisk walking is now believed to be the best exercise of all. But there's good news for those of us who are too busy with our everyday lives to go out and exercise. Regular household tasks like ironing, washing and vacuuming can all be excellent exercise for our hearts, as long as we do them with energy and enthusiasm.
The Maritime Services Board report was presented on day 3 of the inquiry into the Negluca tragedy. Referring to an Australian standard of 1987, the report said the Negluca should have carried no more than 18 people in sheltered waters. Earlier this week, police told the inquiry 49 were on board the Negluca when it capsized. Coroner Kevin Waller heard the vessel's overloading reduced its stability, so that passenger movement to one side or manoeuvring in a certain way could capsize the boat. And more evidence today from Alan Stieber, a director of Stieber Craft, the company that built the Negluca. He said the cruiser wasn't designed to carry 49 people. He said it wasn't sound judgment to have this number on board. There were questions too about the safety features of the vessel. Earlier, the inquiry had heard 4 of the 5 children who died on the Negluca were trapped in a forward cabin. Under cross-examination today, Alan Stieber said the hatch to that cabin could be opened from the inside but not the outside. He said that dual-opening hatches were generally only fitted to commercial vessels. This afternoon, Coroner Kevin Waller heard statements from 3 parents whose children died on the Negluca. Sandy Rutten, mother of Candace 7 and Nathan 3, told police how she tried to reach her children and 2 young nieces, trapped when the vessel capsized. With water up to her neck, she tried to swim to them. "I yelled to my brother," she said, "get them out." He replied, "There's too much stuff floating around and I can't see anything." By this time, she said, "I believe the children had died." The inquest continues tomorrow.
Looking for a cheap typewriter? How about a microwave oven or a toolkit? Well, the boys in blue can help you. They've got a room full of great gift ideas and everything must go. To government revenue, that is. This haul is 10 months of accumulated lost and found, or more commonly stolen and recovered goods. Today, police were making one last appeal for owners to come forward and claim their property before it goes to auction. And there's no shortage of buyers eager to snap up a bargain.
Our last auction, I'd say there was about 300 to 400 people there.
And is it fairly frantic bidding?
Oh, yeah, I say. You get husband and wife even bidding against themselves.
The collection includes an alarming number of unclaimed bicycles and an equally disturbing selection of smaller items. Who would steal a child's teddy bear? And is there no end to gnome napping? If you recognise anything belonging to you, it's not too late to reclaim your property at Pickle's auction room in Islington before it goes under the hammer on Saturday.
The Mayor called today's summit of council representatives from Wyong to Gloucester and out to Singleton in response to growing disquiet over the state of roads in the region. The consensus was that all councils are starved of vital road funds and that the situation is getting worse, with rain damage not recognised as a reason for extra allocations.
What happens is we're giving a specific allocation for main road funding for construction and an allocation for maintenance of main roads. Now, when that maintenance allocation is used up, we're then told to use our construction money to rebuild roads damaged by rain or damaged by flood. So every year our construction funds are shrinking. So instead of building roads that will last and roads that won't need maintenance, we're spending all our money on filling potholes.
Allegations were also made that money is not always distributed on a basis of need. Wyong, for instance, was granted $23 million over 4 years for one major road. The inference here was because of a new state seat.
What we're trying to do is to have strategies change. We're looking for forward planning from the RTA, from various government departments, and what come out very strongly is we're looking for road funding based on need, not based on politics.
Another major point to emerge from today's conference was that even if the money were to become available, local government is not in a position to carry out all the necessary work because of a lack of essential design and construction staff. They've been attracted to private industry by better pay and conditions.
Bans on the Georges River oysters will remain in place until the Health Department is satisfied they are safe to eat. The bans resulted from 750 reported cases of food poisoning. Operators will face prosecution for allegedly running unlawful purification plants, falsifying labels and test samples. A monitoring committee has been set up in Port Stephens. A $100,000 quality assurance program has been implemented by the Health Department, and inspection fees will be charged for operators to relicense purification plants.
Windale. By day it seems like a normal, even quiet suburb, but after dark things begin to change. According to Lake Macquarie Mayor Ivan Welsh, a wave of street crime has swept through this and several other suburbs, leaving many elderly people afraid to leave their homes.
There were two old ladies, one in a suburb just down the road from here, was frightened to even walk outside the house after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now that to me, that's appalling.
To combat the problem, Alderman Welsh today chaired a summit meeting of community leaders, including politicians, police and social workers. The idea was to discover just how bad the problem was and what could be done about it. Many were willing to reinforce the Windale horror stories.
The foul language is absolutely shocking. I know of these children. They're young, 14, 15-year-olds. Now I daren't make a complaint. I'm frightened to make a complaint to the police.
And even when the police were called, most thought today's version of justice was just too lenient.
The emphasis is put on guarding the wrongdoers and not enough. I mean, in my day, right was right and wrong was wrong. And if you were right, you were great. If you were wrong, well, watch out.
The group eventually put their concerns in the form of a 12-point proposal to be presented to State Parliament. Its recommendations include more foot patrol police for the area, an increase of police power, especially under the Summary Offences Act, better use of community service and periodic detention orders, and a clearer statement of what parents can and can't do in the name of disciplining their child. Alderman Welsh admits the chances of immediate action from the government are lessened by the tough economic times, but says they will actually save money in the long run.
Finance is always going to be a problem, but if we don't finance some of this, then there's going to be other financial worries that they're going to have to worry about. Building more prisons, for one.
Another summit will be held in 6 months' time. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
Today was the first of 4 graduation ceremonies at the recently amalgamated University of Newcastle. Although students from the former Hunter Institute were given the choice of where they graduated from, all 2,200 students chose to be known as graduates of Newcastle University. Included in the 82 graduate courses are 7 new subjects. They include an Associate Diploma in Administrative Studies Aboriginal and a Diploma of Aviation, the only one of its kind in Australia. During the next 2 weeks, 8 university medals will be presented to the institution's highest achievers. This morning, 22-year-old Wiley Bradford graduated with first-class honours in economics and a coveted medal. Wiley is part Aboriginal and during his 4 years study worked in the administration department of the uni to help pay his fees. He was also a part-time tutor and carried out research for the Economics and Commerce department. For Wiley, his achievements allow him the choice of the job market, but his future ambitions lie a long way from home at Madawi and schooling at Raymond Terrace High.
I hope to try and get some kind of scholarship to go overseas to study a higher degree and eventually to be a lecturer and move into academic work.